Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Thanks, man.
So, for everybody that's listening right now, you are a investor through Edward Jones.
Yeah.
You have your own practice.
That's right.
In Owensville, Missouri.
That's right.
And so we actually met I had a family member that got me into the whole industry, and he had an investor from St. Louis. And when he passed away, I was kind of in with this guy from St. Louis, and his name was Devin, and he was a super nice guy, but he was far away.
Yeah.
He was in Creve Coeur, an hour and a half away, and the guy would want to meet, and I was like, I don't have the time to get off work after working on everything else I got going on and drive to St. Louis to meet you.
Yeah.
And so that's whenever I just walked into your office one day and said, hey, Jason, my name's Ryan Wilson. I have this portfolio. Can I transfer it out here? And you helped me get it transferred out here.
That's right.
And, that's where our relationship kind of took off.
And it's fun. And I think that's the beauty of, title is financial advisor, but being at Edward Jones in general, that's what makes us different, right? Is that in a small community like this, that you can be with, a very professional person and have a really good relationship with your financial advisor, know them, know who they are, be close to them, have lots of access and all that kind of great stuff. And like I said, I think that's what separates us from a lot of different companies, because if you want the type of service and the type of things that we offer, you don't want to go to St. Louis or Kansas City or maybe even Columbia, right? Mm-hmm. Let's do it here in town.
Yeah, you just don't feel close. And whenever you're putting money into something, and especially if you're uneducated about it like I'm still very uneducated about it, and I'm trying to learn, and I want to be more in the field, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And I don't always put the proper amount of time in to learn. And so that's when I came to you, and I wanted somebody that I could trust. And I remember even whenever I transferred it to you, it was like a year before I actually did anything. And I had it all set up in mutual funds and a bunch of stuff that is not my style of investing.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a day that, because you can check it on the app or the website, and I just remember looking at it, and this was all prior set up to you. We just transferred it to you to manage, basically. And I remember I just wasn't happy with it, and I was like, I got to do something. And I'm not scared to lose it all. And I just remember I walked into your office one day, just stopped in, and I was like, hey, can we set up a meeting so we can change it all, just completely revamp it? I don't care if I lose it all or whatever, but we got to find a way to make it better. And you're like, yeah, absolutely. We set up an appointment, and I came down, and you kind of had something all planned out. And I think that's the big difference. If it was in St. Louis, I would have never had that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's all about, really knowing what people want, because it's not, whenever it comes to investing, every person is going to be different. And so you've got to know, what is this person trying to get after? What are their goals? What are their life dreams? And then what are their time frame? And what is their tolerance for risk? And you basically came to me and said, hey man, I'm ready to go. Let's put our foot on the gas. Let's do something unique. Let's take a shot at a few things, and I'm okay if I lose a little bit of money. Some people are like that and some people aren't. Actually a lot of people are not.
Yeah.
But we were able to take a shot with some individual stocks and had some things that just really took fire right at the right time.
Yeah, and we did it at the right time too, because this was like right at the beginning. Right, was it pre-COVID?
Yeah, but just probably barely pre-COVID.
Just barely into it. So things were getting ready to go really, really well for the stock market.
Yeah, well, really haywire. So we had a huge drop, but then everything and certain things during that drop were not as affected. It was a really interesting time frame then, because this what we call kind of V-shaped recovery then from COVID is we saw this incredible spike down, and then it just came right back. Mm-hmm. And certain things didn't go down. It was just really unique with the way the supply chain was, and the healthcare industry versus other industries. Just things were reacting really strange, and there was pockets of opportunity in there, especially towards the bottom, where somebody could really make money if they had the foresight to say, okay, this is probably not going to last forever. And even in time frames like now, that's probably the biggest mistake people make, is to think that if the market's going down, that's going to happen forever. And that's just never been the case in the history of the market.
And even if it's going down, if it has the potential to go way up, it's like I like to try to look at both sides of the market. Like even if the stocks go down, I'm like, okay, this is the time to buy.
That's right.
Because even if they're going up, then right then's probably not the time I'm wanting to buy in.
That's right.
I'm wanting to wait till the stock market goes down a little bit, and it has dropped a little bit now, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
change a
so
little
we've
bit?
seen since January. So last year was a good year in the market overall. Since January, we've really seen a lot of challenges. Obviously, we've seen supply chain disruptions. The stuff is going on between Ukraine and Russia. China's always on everybody's mind. That's kind of the geopolitical risks that are out there. And then we've seen inflation really rear its ugly head this year, and we've seen some pretty intense inflation. And so with that, the Federal Reserve Bank, in order to combat inflation, what they do is they raise interest rates. So we've seen several interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve at 3/4 of a point per time, and I think they're getting a little bit of a handle on inflation potentially at this point. But I think it'll be interesting going forward. A couple of different things that you said there makes me want to hit on a couple of things. So for one, there's about 3 weeks ago where we saw this time in the market. So it's been going down all year long, right? Down, 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 down. And then it was about 3 weeks ago, we had a Tuesday where we had kind of okay earnings reports from some giant companies, and the market goes up. And it's been going down for 6 months. And then we have a Wednesday where the Federal Reserve Bank increases interest rates by 3/4 of a point again, which historically the market does not like rising interest rates because that's making the economy cool, right? That's on a Wednesday. Market goes up. The Thursday, we get a GDP, gross domestic product. Second quarter GDP announcement comes out, negative GDP for the second quarter in a row, which is indicative of a recession, and the market goes up. Why is that? Historically speaking, the market is forward-looking. That's the market basically saying, duh, we already knew all these things were happening and coming. That's why we've priced that in over the last 6 months. And so I'm hoping, and you never want to call a bottom in a market because as soon as you do that, you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that we've seen either a bottoming or a leveling out process of some kind now in order to maybe get some steam and see what happens with inflation numbers, and actually get some tailwinds towards the market again. And who knows how long exactly that takes. But
Because we're still very, very early on now
Yeah.
with the change of the market, right?
Yeah.
So with all this stuff, it's still very early on.
yeah, it's so hard. It's just so hard to say. But so at Edward Jones, our core philosophies is buy high quality stuff, diversify it out, hold on to it for a long time. If you do those things, you will do well in the market. But people's emotions take control, and this is the really interesting part that I've been doing this for 15 years now, and so my clients have heard me say this a lot. But everybody knows logically in their brains, they know buy where, sell where. Buy low, sell high. Everybody
Yep.
knows that. Everybody can say that. Everybody knows that. Everybody's smart enough to figure that out. However, their emotions tell them to do the exact opposite. Is that whenever things are going great and everyone has a job and people are talking about, all their buddies are talking about how much money they're making in the market and things are very, very positive, that's whenever people want to buy. And that's generally whenever things
They're
are
buying on a trend.
they're buying on a trend. They're buying whenever things are high.
Yeah.
And then whenever there's a war going on in Ukraine and there's inflation and all these different things going on and negative press and things are going down, that's whenever they want to sell it. So people intuitive or with their emotions, they want to buy high and sell low, even though we know that's not what you want to do.
Would you say that's greed and fear?
Yeah,
Big,
to some
big
extent.
emotion of it?
Yeah,
Because
it
it's greed whenever it gets to the top.
That's right.
And then it's fear whenever it starts to drop down. They
That's
get
right.
scared. So they sell out.
That's exactly right.
And I think those two emotions right there are, when it comes to money, play a huge role in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
Whether it comes to doing anything. They're always, it's the fear that's holding them back.
Yeah.
Or it's the greed that's making them buy something. And those two things, usually you got to do the opposite of what your brain, like what schools have taught you your entire life.
So Warren Buffett, right, one of the most iconic investors of all time, says whenever people are fearful, I'm greedy. And whenever people are greedy, I'm fearful.
Yeah.
So whenever everybody's saying it's great and let's get in, that's whenever he's saying maybe we'll just kind of pause here for a second or take a step back.
Yeah.
And whenever people are saying this is terrible, things have never been like this before, we need to run for the hills, that's where he's looking to pick up high quality stocks at low prices.
Yeah. And I would totally agree with that. And I think a good example of that would be this past year when crypto blew up.
Yeah.
And everybody was all big in the crypto. and people would not shut up about it. And they're like, you need to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, all this stuff. But it was really high inflated. And that's when I was fearful of it because I'm just like, I don't see how high. I was like, if I could have figured it out early on,
Yeah.
and bought it early on when nobody else was buying it, then I would have liked to buy it. But I didn't know nothing about it.
Yeah.
And then it was up at the top, and I did get conned into buying a little crypto.
Yeah.
Because it was
that greed, man. That got you.
yeah.
Right?
I'm big on. Well, it was definitely a little bit of greed getting into
Hey,
it.
everybody's guilty of that at some point in time.
Right. But I think I don't. Whenever I don't know about something, like I have like zero knowledge on it, and I can't just seem to figure it out by just Googling it or
Put your
find a
hands
book.
on it, right?
Put my hands on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started buying silver a while back.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about precious metals.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, because I really like gold and silver, and I'd love to get into that atmosphere as a investing method whenever other things aren't going well.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I bought some Bitcoin, I bought some Ethereum, and I'm down at least 2/3 of my money. So it's just part of it.
So it works with that stuff, and with that, so whenever it comes to you think about cryptocurrency, for sure, gold and precious metals. I mean, I think that that can be part of the diversification piece to an overall portfolio. We don't think that that's necessarily something that you should be super heavily weighted in, but we do see the value in having something that's going to react completely differently than any stock or bond or mutual fund or anything like that. Whenever it comes to crypto, it's so hard to value. So you can look at a stock, because at the heart, a stock is an individual company, and you can say, okay, here's their top and bottom line revenues, right? Here's their cash flow. Here's how much they're making. Here's their earnings, and you can put a value around it, right? You can put a loose value around that company. But with crypto,
Yeah. How do you do that?
how do you value it? It's worth whatever someone else is willing to give you for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't produce anything.
Almost
right?
like the dollar, though.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Like
at
you're
the end of the
saying.
day, if we all woke up and just said, we don't care about money anymore. Like,
Yeah.
the dollar is worthless. It would be worthless.
Yeah.
There is no
That's
intrinsic
right.
value to it anymore.
And really, the dollar, you almost think about it as, I think the way that you have to value the dollar is you think of the United States as a company, and you say, what is its top and bottom line? What is it doing? What is it producing? And that's how you value a dollar versus some other sort of, some other foreign currency. But that's getting more and more challenging, more and more complicated all the time too, whenever you look at, debt and that sort of thing with our country. So
well, can we talk about how you got into this whole field?
Yeah.
Because it was funny when I was talking with Dan. He said that you used to work with him a long time ago.
Domino's, man.
Yeah.
We worked at Domino's together.
A long time ago. So how'd you go from working Domino's into this atmosphere?
Yeah. So, all right. So I'll do the best that I can here because I think it's a fairly good story. So it was in high school. And so to let everybody know, so I married my high school sweetheart. So me and Sarah were together in high school. Yeah, I'm delivering pizzas at Domino's, which I'm telling you, man, was a blast. It was a great high school job. I loved it. Making $6 an hour and you get tips on top of that, right? But just running pizzas around town. Like I said, I always thought that was actually a pretty fun job. And yeah, I got to meet Dan there and we became friends there. But throughout high school, what I thought I really wanted to do, and so both of my parents were teachers. Education was a big thing to us. I knew I was going to go to college, and I thought that I was going to go into either conservation or basically a conservation agent is what I wanted to be. So I didn't know, exactly what degree that was going to look like, whether or not it was criminal justice or some degree in conservation or a mix of each. And I really thought that's what I wanted to do. And there was actually a career day at the high school my senior year. And I go in and, you're signing up for like three different people that you're going to go in there, somebody that's in a different industry. And one of them was, and I'm not going to name any names, but the financial advisor for Edward Jones in Owensville at that point in time. And he was in there and I went and sat in on that. And I just really listened. And I think I'm like you in the sense that, I'm always trying to soak it in, right? No matter what it is, even if I don't think I'm interested in something, I'm kind of interested in everything, right? So I go in with an interest, and I had a small investment account actually with him, and was but didn't really know anything about it. Just knew I was interested in, and it always
was your parents the ones that kind of helped you get into it?
That's right.
Just like, hey, this is a smart
custodial account.
investment.
Yeah, you got it right. So it's something I was interested in. I was always interested in how can you make money? How can your money make you money?
Yeah.
Does that make like that's
Because
just-
that's the ultimate thing. If
Yeah.
you're trying to think about making money, you want to make your money work for you.
that's right.
That's like
That's right.
That's like the no-brain thing. Like that's the easiest thing to figure out when you're trying to make money is how do I make my money work for me?
And then that helps you. I mean, you can define success in a lot of different ways, but just accelerate your success that much more is that while you're doing your thing, if whatever money you've made in your lifetime is making money for you as well, you know what I'm saying? And this thing is really snowballing now. But so in there, I thought that was fascinating.
So you learned that in high school.
I started
figure that out in
to
high
learn that in high school. Yeah, I didn't have a freaking nickel to rub together, but I understood the concept and I could see where I
Now,
could see
did
how
you
it'd be
like
really neat.
how'd you figure that out? Was that just something you naturally figured out just by paying attention, or did you talk to your Edward Jones guy and he kind of told you that, or was it a book, anything like that?
Basically,
Parents?
not a specific book, but just kind of by paying attention. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Just by paying attention and looking around and growing up. My parents did a great job of raising us, but we didn't have any money. You know what I'm saying? We were
The
as
norm
middle,
for the rural area.
yeah, we were as middle class as it gets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We had what we needed, but not anything necessarily in excess. But you know, I'd always looked around and seen other styles of life and looked at what other people were doing and thought, man, I think we can do more. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? I think there's some opportunity. I think there's some opportunity out there. And so I go into this, and this guy seems like he really loves what he does. Like he really does seem like he loves what he does. And I'll tell you that it started out very selfish. It started out that I thought it was probably a good income, and that I saw the autonomy of time that he had, that it was not a 9-to-5 job. And man, that just really piqued my interest to do something that was to where I could make my own hours and do things the way that I wanted them was really intriguing to me.
It's okay to be a little selfish.
Well, and you got to think about it. I'm 17, 18 years old. So everybody's kind of selfish at 17, 18 years old, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of the angle I was taking. And honestly, I kind of looked at the what you could do in conservation. And as much as I love the outdoors, I wasn't sure that there was just a ton of opportunity to do the things that I wanted to do and really travel the world and do some really cool things. So I went to East Central College. I had the A+. So I got 2 years free there, and that was in their business management program. So I got an associate's in business management, and then I go and have a interview with the dean for this dean scholarship. I had really no idea what it was. But I'm just interviewing for any scholarship that I can because I don't really have any money, you know. So it's like I need 2 more years. I want to get a bachelor's.
Is that why you chose East Central?
That's why I chose East Central. Yeah,
Just because it was cheap.
it was cheap, man.
And
Yeah.
that's right there. That's a great financial choice too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, I'll just put it all on a student loan and then I'll figure it out later. And so the people that can, sure, community college might not be the coolest, but it's financially
right.
the smarter route to go.
And we had, I got married, me and Sarah got married right out of high school. Her parents put us up in a trailer like in the area,
wow.
you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we're both going to East Central. She's going after nursing. I'm going after business. And we're doing our thing. And I get this interview with the dean, and I get a call a week or two later, and it's like, hey, you got the dean scholarship. And it was, you interview for an hour with the dean, and she picks one person, and you get your next 2 years.
Wow.
And so off to UMSL I go, University of Missouri St. Louis, just because my associates at East Central transferred there very easily. Mm-hmm. And so again, I'm following this route, and it's funny that you said that because I had to answer a question the other day of what is either the best or worst financial decision that you've ever made. And I think the best financial decision that I ever made was not getting into debt early. Mm-hmm. Even though we didn't have any money, we figured out a way to not be in debt. And that was the biggest thing. I did not want to go into life with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to really minimize that as much as
Because I think that's where a lot of people mess up early on. Is because in high school they're telling you go to college, get a good degree, and they're pushing these universities that and they're in this lifestyle like, oh, you go off, you meet all these people, you know, you can really change your life and get some great opportunities in it. But I mean, at 18, they're still kids.
Yeah.
A lot of parents haven't even let their kids think for themselves yet.
Yeah.
And so a lot of kids are going off to these big cities and they don't even know what they're doing, and they're just like, they don't even know what they want to go to college for.
Yeah.
And so they're just jumping. You kind of knew what you wanted to go for, at least. But a lot of these kids, they're changing 2-3 times, and maybe
right.
changing different schools. And people should really start saying, hey, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, don't waste your time. Go to work or go to a community college, try some classes out and see what your passion is.
Get a trade. Get a trade, man. If that's what you think you're into, follow that.
Yeah.
If you're passionate about something,
even
be
slightly passionate.
That's right. You can find success.
Because like only thing I was passionate about was cars.
Yeah.
And I liked auto body. That was the only thing I was passionate about. But everyone told me, oh, that's not a career. That's not going to make any money. Blah, 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 blah. Well, I wasted years because everybody told me auto body wasn't the thing. And I'm taking advice from people I should have never taken advice from. But I was 17, 18 years old looking up to these people, and they had a house and cars and families, and I thought they knew what they were talking about. So I wasted 2-3 years of my life not doing auto body, and it got to the point where I was like, Ryan, you need to make some money.
Yeah.
And I was working in factories while also going to college, trying to do both. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't care about any of these classes, and I hate the factory jobs. And it's like, I got to do the only thing that I can tolerate doing every single day to make some money. So I went to school. I did like a quick 1-year program where I could do auto body and just get right in the field, just to learn the basics.
Yeah.
And that people should be saying that more.
I agree.
And even like the Lynn Tech thing, they try to push, oh, you need to get your gen eds there. And then, because people don't understand when you go to Lynn Tech that you get your certificate in whatever you're doing, and then you get your associate's degree. They're not all combined. You don't get an associate's degree in auto body or welding.
Right.
You get a certificate for welding, and then you get your...
And you're getting associates along
you
with
get
it.
your associates. I'm like, screw the associate's degree. Just go. If you like welding, just go for welding.
Give me the cert. Let's go.
Yeah, because a welding shop's not going to be like, what'd you get in English class?
Yeah.
They could care less. They want to make sure you can weld a clean bead and show up to work every day on
That's
time.
right.
And so I think they really need to start. That was something I've been telling, like if I've had some younger people come to me and I'm like, go and do exactly what you want to do and try to save, go the cheapest route. Because most of the time an employer is looking at who you are and do you have the knowledge to do it. They don't care about the classes. I never once had anybody ask me for a report card. Now, some fields, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, or some fields, yes, you probably need a little more. But especially, just find something you like to do and do it. And like you said, don't get into too much debt. My sister did the same thing, and she's criminal justice, but she went to SLU, spent way too much money, and she says all the time now, she's like, man, I could have done it so much cheaper.
Yeah, Yep. And I think so many people think that whenever they come out of it, and you gotta think about what kind of money are you going to make for this education that you're getting? So I kind of loosely know this professor from Seton Hall, and he wrote a book called Higher Education Accountability. And it's all about, honestly, we need to hold these educational institutions to a higher level of, if I'm paying $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever it is to get this education, I need to be able to get a job that's going to make me some money.
Yeah.
Right?
It's almost
if you're not ready, it is. If you're not prepared, if you're not coming out of college prepared with everything that you need to get a really good career started, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. If you were any type of business person or investor and you're going into this and you put it, like if you built a business plan looking at this, you wouldn't do it because it's a bad investment.
Right.
Because you're like, I don't know what it costs to go to SLU. Let's say $50,000 a year. You go for 2 years.
Yeah.
You only go for 2 years. That's $100,000 in debt. You need to be making quite a bit of money. But let's say you go for 4 years. $200,000 in debt. You really need to make sure you're making some money to be able to make that payment.
That's right.
And survive. Because at the end of the day, if you're just paying the payment and if you can't afford your house, you can't afford a place to live and the gas to get there because your student loan debt is so expensive. That's crazy. Because I'm pretty sure, isn't student loan debt the only debt that does not go away with the bankruptcy?
Yeah. So that's going to be with you forever.
Yeah. So you could take out $1 million on a business or a home or whatever you want, and if you go belly up, the government will say, "Okay, we forgive you this time."
Yeah.
But if you go to school and you get $500,000 in debt from it, the government's not going to forgive you for that. You got to pay that back.
That's because that's a government loan.
Is that the difference?
Most of the time, yeah.
Dang.
That's not a private loan. The government's not going to let you out.
Well, I guess that makes sense. I guess that does make sense. So I really think that schools should be talking about that more.
Yeah.
talking more like pushing community colleges more.
I'm with you.
And try to just financial education should be more important.
Yeah. And so I'm on the school board here in town, and there's a lot of talk of this, and we're really taking action on this right now. But having more education even in high school about helping steer kids in a direction that probably makes the most sense for them, and giving them the resources to make decisions early on that are going to really help them out later on down the line.
Yeah, like for me, I thought I was just different. Like I knew I was different, but I couldn't figure out like why I was so different than everybody else, because I didn't enjoy school, and I tried my hardest, but I could not focus in class.
Yeah.
I tried my best to get good grades, but I wasn't getting good grades because I liked the class and I wanted to try hard. I was getting good grades because if you didn't get good grades, you looked at as an idiot.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get good grades to keep my parents happy.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely it. I could care less about any of the classes. I could care less about any of it. And it took until I got out of college and everything, and I started doing my own things in life. And I started reading books, and I started because my passion is business. I really found like love in that. Like that's where I'm really passionate at. And I started realizing that there's other people like me out there that don't care about school, and whatever, my passion was the business. And so I needed to find something along the business lines to keep me pulled in. And so everything else in school just didn't interest me. And so that's why I felt like such an outcast.
Yeah.
And I wasn't an outcast. I just wasn't in my circle.
You
I
just
wasn't
thought
around
differently.
Yeah, I just thought differently, and I wasn't around that. If you like music and singing, you should be in choir. If you really like sports, you should be playing a sport. If you like math, you should be taking math classes and things like that, calculus and stuff like that. Like if you want to be an engineer, you should probably be going down that path. But there is no classes in high school for someone that wants to be a young entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I want to be in life.
We need more, I think more real life stuff in high school. And like I said, I think we're understanding that and trying to incorporate that. I know more in our district on whenever it comes to like the STEAM stuff that we are just pumping lots of money into.
STEAM stuff?
Yeah. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Okay. What's the A in that? I can't remember now because it used to be STEM.
Okay, sure.
But they added an A. But yeah, I mean, we've got a great program at the school now, teaching kids trades and giving them exposure to that really early on, so they can try to figure out what they do have a passion for and hopefully get a start on that right off the bat, as opposed to learning later on that computer science was really their thing, but they had no idea that was even it.
An option.
So they went to school for something they just thought, well, I'm just supposed to go to school for something, so I'm going to do this, because
I
my
feel
parents
like a lot
did
of
it or
people
whatever.
go to school, like college. When I ask someone early on in college, like, what are you going for? A lot of them say me business management.
Business all the time. Yeah.
Business. And I'm like, so you don't know what you want to do?
Yeah.
Like that's what I tell them. Like, you just don't know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, exactly. And because that's like at the end of the day, like sounding like you own a business or can run a business sounds at least like
great,
a good thing.
right?
Yeah. And so that's why a lot of people go there, but they're not. A lot of those people aren't passionate about actually want to do it. And I did it for like one semester, and I took an accounting class, and I hate accounting. I will never be an accountant. And that's so accounting in business. Sure, you need it.
Yeah.
But I have an accountant that I pay for a reason.
Yeah.
She is good at it.
Yeah.
And I hate it. So it works out perfect. And I think that, I just think the mold of it needs to be changed a little bit.
So so back to kind of my story, I might be a little unique in the sense that even whenever I was at East Central at a community college going for a business man, the most generic degree on the planet, I was really trying to be thoughtful though about where I was going in my path forward. And I think if there's something that it could, attribute to, the little bit of success that I've had is that I have been very good, I think, about being forward looking and front loading the work and thinking about, okay, I'm doing this now because it's going to do something for me 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And even then I was researching Edward Jones, they had been consistently in the top 5, top 10 companies to work for in the United States every year, by Fortune magazine, read a bunch of articles, had talked to some other Edward Jones advisors, and everybody was like, this company is the real deal. They treat their people so well, and they have such a client focus. Everything, the whole idea behind Edward Jones is that that if you treat your clients right and you do right by them, then you don't have to worry about the outcome. You're going to do just fine as long as you're always having the client at the very center of it. And so that really intrigued me about the company. And so I'm going to UMSL, and me and Sarah living in the trailer, and I'm driving to Enneagram in Pacific at night. So
That's where you're working at the
yeah,
time?
Friday nights.
Which is what?
So we made van seats for the Chrysler minivans at that point in time,
wow.
right? So this company is no longer there.
It was like a manufacturer.
It was a manufacturer, yeah. And so it was the classic, it's a union, made incredible money for being a temporary person.
And no skills.
And
basically.
no skills, right? Great benefits, making $20 some odd an hour.
Wow.
And and this was in 2006 time frame, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is taking a part from behind me and laying it on a pallet in front of me for the most part. And so, but doing that, and so I go into work at 5 in the evening, and I'm getting off at 1 or 2 in the morning, something like that. But I'm doing it Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays, and it's able to fit with my Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule at UMSL. So I guess I'm doing that, researching the company, get a bachelor's degree, a double major in finance and management, and immediately know that I want to go out into the field and do what I'm doing now. But I also married a small town girl who has all kinds of family in this area. And I myself would have traveled anywhere. I would have gone anywhere and found an office and done my thing. And I was, would have been excited to do that, but we've been married for a few years now, and I know that I'm sticking in the area. So trying to figure out what I want to do. And I apply so right out of school, I apply for a job at Edward Jones. It's a rotational development program. So the idea is you go into the home office, rotate through several departments.
Where's the home office? St. Louis?
So Manchester and 270.
The big glass building.
Yeah,
Yep.
There you go. Big glass building.
That's where my first guy was actually from.
Okay.
In there.
Was
Yep.
right in there. Yeah. So me and Sarah we had moved to Union because I was sure that she was going to work at the hospital in Washington, and I was probably going to be doing something in the St. Louis area just due to the degree that I had. I applied for this thing at Edward Jones and I'm like, man, this will get my foot in the door, and options will come open from there. Get all the way through this very rigorous interview process. And it's me and another guy from UMSL that I had done some classes with, and I don't get it. Don't get the job. I mean, like devastated, man.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
So the other guy got it.
Other guy got it. This is what I wanted to do. And I thought, here it is. This is this big opportunity. And I think this is one of those things in life. It was really a pivotal moment, because if I had gotten that job, I would not be here today, because I would have climbed the ladder probably at the home office, clocked in 9 to 5 every day, which is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
It was one of those that, that was God's way of directing our path, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so didn't get that. And at the time, it was just like, are you kidding me? This is, I thought for sure that I had interviewed well and all this kind of stuff. So now I'm just scrambling, looking for a job, right? It's like, I'm not in school anymore, and I
need some money.
I'm not staying at home. I need
Yeah.
some money. You know what I'm saying? So Sarah had supported us through a lot of this. She was an RN at the hospital in Washington, so we had some income there, but I'm not going to not have a job.
Yeah.
Look around, so now I'm on the internet searching for basically business jobs, which is kind of a crazy thing. And I end up at Titan Industries. And this is the summer right after I graduated in the spring. And it would have been the summer of, the spring and summer of 2007 or 8.
Okay.
Either way, so go to Titan. This place it ends up being basically a multi-level marketing scheme, right? I'm going to this place in Fenton every day.
Which is basically like a pyramid scheme.
It's
right?
basically a pyramid scheme. So what we're actually doing is one of our clients is United Homecraft, and they're up in Florissant. And so we are the sales force for United Homecraft. And so what I'm charged to do is to go out and knock on doors, right? In anywhere in St. Louis area. It's sales, man.
Sales.
Go out and knock on doors. Hey, my name's Jason. I'm with United Homecraft, which I'm really not. I'm with Titan. We got some guys out here doing some work today. No, not necessarily. My boss has me running around here just to apologize for the noise and to offer you a free estimate on gutters, siding, windows, all this kind of stuff. So for everybody that I can sign up for
They
free,
already built this system, though.
Yeah.
And they telling you this is what you need to say.
this is what you do. This is what you do. All right. And so this is also really interesting because I hated this. I absolutely hated it. But it really prepared me for what I ended up doing at Edward Jones later.
I was thinking, I'm like, as much as people don't like it, that is sales in general, to learn how to sell, especially. I never had to do it that way, but man, what a character building job that had to be, because you had to muster up the courage to go up to someone's house, knock on the door, and try to sell them this thing, and you're not even passionate about it.
That's right.
You know, so and you had to get turned down, I'm sure, a million times.
I mean, all the time, because I would do this all day, and the idea was if you knock on 100 doors in a day, you should be able to land 5 or 6 apps would be the thing. And for every app that I get $40, right? This is how this thing's working. Yeah. So, I had done this for a while, and like I said, it was fake, and it was not me at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I consider myself a very genuine person, and I was just like, this was torturing me to some extent, but didn't know really what else I wanted to do. So one day I'm out, and I'm working the United Homecraft thing, and I'm in this neighborhood, I knock on this guy's door, and he just lets me freaking have it, right? Chases me out of his house, and, you know, cussing me up and down, all this kind of stuff. And so I keep going, keep doing my thing. And this has also taught me huge lessons on rejection,
like
and being
physically
positive.
had to run from it.
Yeah. This guy's chasing me out, telling me he's going to call the cops.
Holy cow!
And so so I'm
Because you're going around St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm in this big subdivision in St. Louis. And so we run out of United Homecraft spots. So we had signed up because the idea was that if somebody says, yep, I want an estimate on gutters, I call this guy who I've never met before. Everybody calls him Fish. Hey, Fish, it's Jason here, and I got somebody that wants an estimate on some gutters. And he says, okay. And then we sign him up for a time, and they have so many time slots. Well, we'd run out of time slots. Whenever you run out of time slots, one of the other clients that we had was like Pizza World, for example. And now I'm slinging coupons, right? For Pizza World coupons. So I got these in my vehicle. So just in case we run out of United Homecraft spots, I can go do this. And so I kind of get turned around in the subdivision, and I knock on this door, and hey, Jason here with Pizza World, and I immediately realized this is the guy from earlier this morning.
No, you went to the same house.
I went to the same house. I didn't realize it was the same
cow.
house. And so he ends up calling the cops. I'm running from this person as soon as I see him, right? He does call the police. I'm kind of lost, walking around, trying to find my way back to my car, and the police pull up and ask me if I have a soliciting license for that subdivision, which I didn't, because the people at Titan were all like, "Oh, that's BS. You know, you don't need any of that. No one will ever hassle you or anything like that." They give me a ticket. And I go home, and it's like, this is the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just because it's just
had
like
to probably
this
rip you down hard.
Rejection, and this is not what I want to do. And now, and it's just
because you're like, you don't even feel right doing it.
No, I don't feel right doing this.
Yeah,
not at all. But like I said, it taught me so much. So I would encourage anyone. It's like these life experiences that are hard. Oh man, that's the good stuff.
You
really,
need to go through.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
If you make it right, that is the good stuff. So. So I'm done that day. I never go back in. You know,
you quit right there on the spot.
I'm done. Or I went back in to tell them.
Yeah.
I went back in the next day, and I'm like, hey, I can't do this. And they actually convinced me to come back like a week later and talk to a different boss from higher up and to put me on some sort of an insurance. I was just done with the company. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, guys. That's it. So I go back to a guy's name is Greg Graves. He was my supervisor at Integram. And his daughter works for Professional Employment Group, and they place people at Edward Jones. And so I'd known that. I go to Greg. He hooks me up with his daughter. She gets me a place. So I'm actually, it's a temp agency. So I'm a temp at Edward Jones in the home office. I am in the managed...
Out of luck, basically?
Basically, they just needed some extra help. And so I'm going in at probably $12 or $13 an hour maybe, but I'm working at the home office, and I'm working with all employees of Edward Jones, but I'm employed through Professional Employment Group. And they've got me legit. I'm in the mail room binding managed account proposals and FedExing them to financial advisors, to offices. That was in the managed account department. We launched something called Advisory Solutions. And so they hired a bunch of people on full time. And so the natural selection was these people from Professional Employment Group get hired on full time. And so boom. Now I'm an Edward Jones employee.
How long did it take you from the employment company to get hired?
Yeah, it's a good question. 3 or 4 months.
Pretty quick.
Pretty quick.
Because they probably hired a lot of people that weren't that great at it. Probably didn't even want to do it.
I'm there every day. I'm there early. I'm going
Have
late.
some skill.
I'm trying to learn as much as I possibly can and soak things up. And so whenever they launched, it was kind of a natural. They launched that new program. It was kind of a natural fit. And so I was a service specialist 1. And so I've got a headset on all day, and advisors and branch teams are calling in, and I'm answering questions about this advisory solutions platform. $33,000 a year, man. And I was like, yeah, all right, here we go. This is the start. But while I was there, this is like that looking forward. So I didn't get paid for this, and I had to do it on my own time. But I inquired about getting my Series 7 license because I knew that to be a financial advisor, I had to have a Series 7, Series 66, an insurance license. You got to have all these things. And to pass this test, the Series 7 is an absolute bear of a thing. And so I get these 2 binders that are like 3 or 4 inches, 5 inches thick piece. And they're like, dig in. If you want to give it a shot, we'll pay for your first time at the test. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. So I take 3 or 4 months, and just every waking minute that I'm not at work, I'm digging through this stuff and trying to understand it and try to figure it out. Get my Series 7 license. It was one of the craziest things ever. You do this test the night before. You got to get a 70 on it at the time. Night before, I did the entire practice exam. I can't remember. It's like 500 questions or something like that. Get a 69% on it. Like, oh my gosh. So I'm going in the next day. Didn't sleep all night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Going in.
Ripping on yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Take the test, hit the submit button, just thinking, we'll see. And it gives me, I got it right there. It almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah.
One of the best feelings of all time to have put in all this work and knowing that it was close and then getting it. So I still work at the home office there for a little bit longer. And, out of nowhere, Kim Charles, who's a financial advisor in Pacific, he was the recruiting leader for Region 166 at the time. And he calls and he says, hey, you Jason? Yeah. Are you from Owensville? I am. Do you have some connections there? I'm like, well, I'm young, but yeah, I mean, my dad was a football coach and this kind of stuff. He's like, do you know so-and-so, the guy that was in that office before? And I'm like, yeah. Well, he left for Wachovia yesterday morning, and that office is open. And we need somebody to fill it. Would you like to put your name in the hat? Oh, heck yeah. And if I would not have had the Series 7 already, they would not have even looked at me. They needed somebody who was licensed now and could go in and do the work now, as opposed to taking 3 months
fill this void.
To get that. Yeah, you got to fill that void, or else this, because this office is just hemorrhaging clients and assets, right? Everybody's leaving because there's no one in the branch. I mean, that's what we're all about. There's no one in the branch to handle it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what luck? Why? Who would just pack up and leave like that?
Yeah. So grass is greener on the other side, man. Some people, and I think that's a huge mistake that people make too, is that even whenever they are successful, they're still looking for, there's always more, and sometimes there's not. You know what I'm saying? You got to know when a good thing is a good thing and whenever you should just run with it. And I think
know when to stay in your lane.
Yeah, more of your generation and younger too is so many people I think are going from this to this to this to this to this to this, taking these small incremental steps up. Whenever if they would just stay with a really good thing, they can make that something huge, right? So I mean, I guess long story short, step into that office. My first thing Edward Jones has you do whenever you get out in the field is they say, go out and knock on every door in your market twice.
Wow.
So I go out, knock on every door in Gerald, Rosebud, Owensville, Blandon, Bell twice. But this time it's, hey, Jason Crowe, I'm with Edward Jones Investments. I'm just out today doing some old-fashioned advertising, trying to get to know people in the area. Basically, here's my card. If there's anything I can do, let me know. Trying to get to know people as much as I can.
Dang.
But that experience at Titan with United Homecraft and all that, as awful of an experience as that was, they're kind of like, hey, do you think you'll be able to go out and can you do this work? Can you knock on people's doors and ask them financial questions? And heck yeah, I'm legit.
Easy. I feel very, very comfortable because you already did it.
Yeah, that's right.
And now you're selling something that you want to do.
That's right.
Basically selling yourself.
That's right. And it
what you're
really,
passionate about.
really is. And a certain level of service and professionalism that I don't think they can get elsewhere. And so I took over 9 million in assets there. We've grown that to a little over 115 million in assets
Holy
under
crap.
management in our office right there in this little town.
Yeah.
The community has been an absolute blessing to us. I mean, we think we do things the right way, and people have responded to that and respect it. And
Well, I think the numbers there show.
yeah,
there. I mean, that says a lot.
yeah,
Says a whole lot.
it's been a really fun ride. Edward Jones is an incredible company, and like I said, this community is great. And so I try to give back every chance that I get. Right, active member of the Lions Club, and I'm on the school board, coaching my son's football team. I'll be coaching his basketball team in the winter, and I really do try to. We write checks every day to, anybody who's coming in for these different events and things that are going on because the community has treated us so well that we want to make sure and
I do the exact
give
same
that
thing.
back.
I think that's the whole reason why I want to make money is so I can give it back to people.
That's exactly right.
I don't really care about money that much. Obviously, I got to make it, but growing up, there were so many things that I wanted as a young kid in the area, and now that I'm actually starting to make a little bit of money. Anytime I can give back to anybody, I want to.
Yeah.
I just went to a restaurant in Owensville yesterday, and I guess they're going to start like a local talent show. And the kid came up to me and he's like, "Hey, would you actually be one of like our like judges?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you want me to do it for?" and he's just like, "I don't know. I just thought you'd be really good at it," because he had seen the podcast, everything like that. I said, "Well, are you guys collecting money?" And he's like, "No, I never really thought about it." I was like, "Well, you should ask me some money. I'll give you some money if you let me hang up a banner or something.
Yeah.
Advertise a fitness parlor." Because I'm all down donating back and giving to stuff like that. And I there's not really much. I like to donate to just about everything. If it's local in the community and it's going to help the community grow, I'm all for it.
I'm with you.
Let's do it. As long as I got the money to do it, I'll give some money for it.
100%. I agree with you. Absolutely.
It feels so great too.
Yeah, we've got a really. I do think that we have an awesome community. We've got a lot of people who are passionate about making it better, and I think it's our responsibility, from growing up in this community, to give back to it.
Yeah, I think so too. We're the generation that's going to help it really grow.
That's right.
We're now the ones that are teaching the young generation that's growing up, and like that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to be a role model for everybody growing up. And that's a big reason for me doing the podcast and me doing these videos online and everything like that is I want to show the young kids, because it is a rural area. And I want to show everyone that, hey, I didn't grow up with money. And if you guys don't grow up with money, you guys can make money.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity. And I want people to know, like, hey, you can come to me and you can ask me. And I want you to be able to watch this podcast and maybe take some information out of it and learn to think for yourself and learn how to make some money for yourself.
Yeah.
And anybody can do it if you're willing to put in the work. And so that's a big thing for me.
So much more rewarding to earn it, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do it on your own, as opposed to just to have it, to inherit it, or whatever it is. That if
You don't appreciate it.
No,
You really don't.
Right.
And the ones that have to earn it, it sucks at first.
Oh yeah.
But once you start earning it yourself, you start getting fulfillment out of it all. It's very, very rewarding, and it really starts to give back to yourself, like just kind of like warm your heart almost a little bit.
Yeah.
And I had to learn. I had to learn that, like, hey, it's hard at the beginning and you're going to mess up. And because I didn't know and because I didn't have a lot of money, I failed a lot. I'm still failing every single day.
Yeah.
But I've learned to enjoy the failures and learn from my failures. And like, it's part of the process. And like every time I fail, I don't beat myself up on it. I don't let it tear me down. A lot of people, they act like it's bad luck. You're like, I got the worst luck ever. And it's just like, no, you just didn't know how to handle the situation. But now that you did it, now learn from it. And then next time around, don't repeat the process. And as long as you're learning from all the failures, that's when you can start growing. But you have to take responsibility when you fail. When something goes wrong, you got to learn to take responsibility for it. That was a big lesson for me in life.
I think that's good stuff. And that's, so I did a speech at the honors luncheon at the end of last year, and and it was a lot of stuff that we're talking about today, but the title of it was Fail Forward, right? Learn to fail forward, because you have to figure out how to make your failures work for you, right? To find something in that that is going to help you going forward, because every time that something doesn't go right, there's something in there. There's something in there.
Yeah.
There's some
That's
good
a Will
stuff
Smith
in there.
quote. There's a motivational speech out there with Will Smith, and it's something he talks about it, but the thing he really pushes on that is fail forward.
Fail forward. Yeah.
You know, when you fail forward. That way, you're learning from it. You're progressing from it. Yeah. Because with each failure is a lesson.
Absolutely.
Sure. So can we talk about some loans, some different type of loans? I learned, because did you ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I have not.
No, Never read that.
No, I've heard a bunch of stuff from it. You know what I'm saying? But I haven't actually gone through and read it.
I don't think you need to read Rich Dad Poor Dad because of your knowledge in the industry. But I would recommend, he had a book that comes out after that called The Cash Flow Quadrant. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
So he talks about the cash flow quadrant as it's four sectors.
Yep.
And the left side is, on the top is E, and then the bottom's S, and then the top right is B, and then the bottom right is I.
Okay.
And so it's employee, self-employed, business, and investor.
Yep.
And he talks about like the difference. He tries to show people the difference between, if you're trying to make money and try to make wealth and want to do the things you want to do, the reason why it's so hard for a lot of people is they're on the left side of the cash flow quadrant. They're working as employees or working as self-employed. And so like me, I'm self-employed right now.
Right.
But the big problem with a lot of people that go into self-employment is that they just basically buy their job. So like me, if I was an auto body, I could have just bought a body shop and started painting the cars and do everything myself. Yep. So really, I should have just stayed as an employee.
You're an employee. You just make yourself an employee, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they talk about going to the right side of the right side's business and investing. And they're talking about how if you build a business with a system, it would basically run itself.
Yeah.
But in the book, they talk about different types of stocks and different types of, like a 401k is an investment plan.
Right.
And that's where I learned about. That's where I kind of started thinking like, oh, I need to get a little more serious in this atmosphere.
Yeah.
And because I grew up and you probably grew up in the same time. I don't know when, like a few people offer pensions, but it's very rare anymore.
It's going away. It's a thing of the past. It used to be that you would go and work for a company for 30 or 40 years and they would give you, a nice pen or whatever at the end of the day. And then you've got a pension that's going to last you throughout your retirement. And that's what people were used to. And I think that's where a lot of shortfalls on people saving has come from.
It's guaranteed.
Yeah, because their parents had this. Mm-hmm. And in psychology, they just didn't realize, I'm not going to have that. And I can start saving money like soon, because I'm going to have a lot of it to make up that guaranteed lifetime income that my parents had. And pensions are just a thing of the past.
Can you, so I don't believe in 401ks.
Yeah.
Can you talk on that, or should we stay away from that?
No,
Do you believe in 401ks?
Yeah.
You believe in 401ks.
So, yeah.
Can I tell you why I don't believe in them?
Go for it.
So I don't believe in them. This is what got me away from them when I was reading the book, and they kind of talked on it a little bit, and I started researching a little bit more. And what I learned about 401ks is the difference between a 401k and a pension, which you guys as parents, everyone that's listening, their parents grew up with pensions where it was a guaranteed money. Right. But the 401k was developed by people that like stockbrokers on Wall Street, right? Basically.
To some extent.
To some extent. And what you're doing is you're investing. You're taking this money and you're giving it to an investor to put into like mutual funds. Most of it's mutual fund based, I would.
Almost all of it, yeah.
And the problem with mutual funds is that you don't know, most people don't know what the mutual funds are investing in.
Most people don't know what's in them.
Have no clue what's in them. And 30, 40, 50 years, when you come to retire, if the stock market goes down or something happens, or you just got into bad mutual funds or anything bad happens, there's nothing holding it together. It can crash, and then you're thinking, oh, I've been putting this money in, because everybody, that's what they do. They calculate, well, I put in $150 a week, and then my boss matches it up to a certain percent, or maybe they said $1,000 a week, whatever. They're putting this money in, they calculate, and they're like, oh, by the time I'm 65, I'll have $1 million in there, and that's my retirement. But the problem is that if something happens in the market, it can all crash, and you could have basically no money in there to retire off of. And that's why I don't like 401ks, because I'm not in control of where that investment goes. You're never in the control of where the stock goes, but I like the fact that I came in and sat down with you and I said, hey, I don't like mutual funds for one, and for two, I want to go for broke, and I want to make sure that I'm putting a little more risky one, putting a little more risk on it, but ones that can have a better return.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to stay with it, and I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to get in other investments that are going to help me almost guarantee that when I'm ready to retire, that they're going to be there when I retire. Because the 401k, I just don't know if it's going to be there when I go to retire.
So I think
that's my thing.
Gotcha. So I think all of that stems from what you're thinking of as a lack of transparency that you have in a 401k to some extent. You don't really know exactly what's going on in there, but here's the argument there. Work with a good, trusted financial advisor. You work with a financial advisor that helps you navigate all of those different pitfalls that you just talked about. So a couple of things about a 401k. Most of the time, if you're adding to a 401k, the employer is matching that to some extent. So if you're not putting any money in, they're basically saying, here's 3% of your check that are willing to give you. And if you're not contributing to the 401k, they're not giving it to you. It's just money there that you're just leaving on the table if you're not contributing to your 401k. You can contribute to most 401ks in two different ways. One, on a tax-deferred basis. So someone that has a very high income and needs a tax break can contribute to their 401k. And if they make $100,000 a year and they put $10,000 in that year into their 401k, they're only reporting $90,000, right? So that's a big benefit. Or maybe someone's not making as much money, or even at that $100,000 limit, they may want to make Roth contributions to their 401k. So that money is going in after tax and it's growing tax-free, which is incredibly powerful. So maybe over the course of their life, they put a couple $100,000 into their 401k. It grows to $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. And all of that growth is completely tax-free. You can pull it out, no taxes whatsoever. What an incredibly powerful thing in retirement.
So if you donate, not donate, but put money into this 401k out with the money that was already pre-taxed, like from your bank accounts, how do they separate that from the money that because if it comes out of your paycheck, it comes out before the taxes.
It can come out either way.
So, but how, like, say if you got your paycheck and you're putting in $100 a week out of your paycheck and your boss was matching it.
Yeah.
And it comes out before the taxes. So it hasn't been taxed.
Pre-tax, right?
Pre-tax, and you don't get taxed on it till you pull it out.
Right.
So the money that's already been pre-taxed, like say you just been saving up money for a while now in a savings account and you got 10 grand there and you're like, I'm going to put this in my 401k.
Yeah.
Just to help let it build up a little more. How do they differentiate?
You actually have to have that come out of your check on an after-tax basis. So you can have it come out on a pre-tax basis, so you can't just take money from your savings account and put it into your 401k. It has to come out of your check, but you can have it come out of your check on a pre-tax and or a post-tax basis. And they do report all of that in that 401k. So you may have some after-tax dollars and some pre-tax dollars. And so we do rollovers all the time where they send us two checks. One goes into the person's Roth IRA, one goes into the person's traditional IRA, because they gave us the Roth portion separate from the pre-tax
is
portion.
A Roth and a traditional IRA, is that a 401k?
So
is that a style
basically
401k?
A traditional 401k and a traditional IRA are the same, and a Roth 401k and a Roth IRA are the same. But those 401ks you can have Roth contributions and traditional contributions into one 401k unit.
Why do they call it Roth?
I'm not completely sure, honestly. I'm not sure if that's who...
Rothschilds or something?
Yeah, exactly. Like the last name of the person who came up with the concept of a Roth IRA. And Roth IRAs are huge, man, because I can see that's a lot of money that's never being taxed. And our government is broke, let's face it. And at some point in time, I could see them grandfathered in people who have Roths, but changing the rules on that and saying, no, we've got to
tax you.
We got to have these tax dollars, right?
Yeah.
So I really encourage people to get as much into a Roth as they can, especially younger people who may not need the tax break today and have a long time for that to grow tax-free.
So, okay, so explain this to me, because this is always so confusing to me. Roth and traditional.
Yep.
Roth is the one that is
After tax.
after tax. So like if you get your paycheck and then the money goes into that.
That's right.
That's how it works.
You got
so
it.
You can in a Roth IRA, you can take money from your bank account and put it in.
That's right.
But a traditional
Up to $6,000 a year.
Oh, really?
There's a limit of $6,000 a year
And then
per individual into a
A
Roth.
traditional is before tax.
Yeah, pre-tax. So the way that would work, you could still take money out of your savings account and put it into a traditional IRA. But then that you just kind of square up with the government at the end of the year. Let's take that same example and say that you make $100,000. You take the max, which is $6,000, out of your savings account, put it into a traditional IRA, you now only have to report $94,000 to the government. If that's in a traditional. In a Roth, you do that same thing. You're still reporting the whole 100, right? Because those are after-tax dollars. The advantage of the Roth, though, is that whenever that $6,000 grows to $10,000 and you take it out, you don't pay any tax on any of it. In the traditional IRA, whenever the $6,000 turns to $10,000, you're paying tax on both the six that you put in and the $4,000.
So the Roth, the reason you don't have to pay tax on it is because you already paid the tax on it.
That's right. But then you get tax-free growth as well. So that $4,000 is also
How does that work?
taxed.
When you pull it out, they don't tax you for
Don't tax you on it. No, it's a Roth IRA. Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, it's one of the few ways that you can make money and not pay taxes on it, honestly, and it's through a Roth. Now, I mean, there's some nuances to that. The contributions that you made the growth on have to be in there for at least 5 years before you pull them out. And some, like I said, there's some technicalities to that. You need to think of it as a long-term investment and think of it as towards probably your retirement. But yeah, I mean, that's the basis of it. And I actually want to hit though on one thing that you said earlier, whenever your beef against 401ks and whenever I was talking about being with an investment planner of some kind, is that if you're doing that right, because you're right. The biggest fear of having a big four is you got a couple $1,000,000 in a 401k and you go to retire and we see a giant market dip. And now all of a sudden, can you retire or can you not? If you've planned well, that person that has a couple $1,000,000 in their 401k should have a couple $100,000 in cash. And so whenever the market does go down, you still retire and you use your cash until the market comes up. Like that's the way that should be designed, is that you should be thinking forward about that and have planned for it and know that my clients who are 62 and are retiring at 65, we have them in cash now. And we're continuing to grow their money, knowing that if we would see a dip at a bad time, that we've got resources to be able to feed that retirement while we wait for the market to bring that back up. And then whenever the market comes back up, we start feeding their retirement off of that growth. The market dips, we take from cash. The market grows, we take the profits. The market dips, we take the cash, and you just use your income like that.
So someone that's working anywhere, you work for somebody, because I think that's the big problem with the 401k is where I looked at it as, do I trust my employer to have the right investor? And is that investor that he's working with, is he doing the right things with the money? And sure, you can go to your employer and be like, hey, who's the investor? Can I go meet him so I can make sure I'm getting my stuff in the right investments? Is it possible to say, like, if I started a job somewhere and he offered me a 401k, can I be like, well, I have this investor here. Can I link your benefit where he's like, I'll match you up to 3%. Can I link it to where it goes to you instead of to this other one? Is that possible? Is that hard?
You can't do that, but I can tell you that so every 401k is going to have a suite of different investments. And they're going to have all kinds of different mutual funds and exchange traded funds that you can pick from. Everywhere from money market funds, which are zero risk and nearly zero return, all the way up to, say, a Vanguard S&P 500 fund or something like that. Most 401ks are going to have 30 or 40 different options that if someone can get the right, they can create a portfolio out of those that is going to help them over time and really do well over time. I think they should work with their financial advisor on what kind of an allocation that might look like, because you got to think that, so for a young person, we might be recommending 80% in stocks and 20% in fixed income, or maybe 100% in stocks or something like that. So you can work with your financial advisor or your planner to kind of guide you on what the allocation should look like in your 401k. This is a really fine line and really one of those, I don't want to say gray areas, but depending on what the credentials of a financial advisor has, we're not always supposed to be helping you and giving explicit recommendations in your 401k, right? But we can tell you, hey, here's how we have you allocated with us. It's 80% stocks, 20% fixed income. Here's some company names that do a really good job. And then you have complete control because you're not putting those dollars in and just letting your company dictate how they're invested. You can go in there
and change them up
and change those things and get an allocation that makes sense for you and for your situation and for your risk tolerance and your time frame and your goals and all that kind of stuff.
So when someone works for somebody, you should ask your employer, can I get the contact to the guy that runs the 401k?
Yeah, for sure.
Investments and just wherever they're wherever their office is, go in, meet them, shake their hand, say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. I just want to make sure that my investments are going in the right direction. And then, try to tell them your goals and everything like that.
Because you can either be mad about the way that it's going, or you can take some ownership in it.
Yeah.
Right. And so
that's the big thing.
Yeah, that's the big thing. So you go and take that step, because so many people, it's apathy is really why people don't do well in 401ks a lot of times. It's because they either don't know or don't care and haven't taken the time to invest in themselves, right? And find some things out and work with someone, and challenge someone to help them.
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing. And I guess saying I don't like 401ks is a little bit of a stretch because of the kind of the mindset I go into. I guess they're not terrible. And I have some money. Is it a Roth or traditional I have money in?
Wow, we're in a Roth.
We're in a Roth. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it's kind of something, this is the whole atmosphere that I still know so very little about.
Yeah.
So like you coming on today, this helps me learn so much.
Yeah.
And I try to always stay with it, but it's hard. It's something that, especially when I'm doing everything else.
And so this is here's the thing. And at Edward Jones, so whenever I first started, it was very much a sales job. Right, I talked about going around and knocking on doors, and then so on these contacts that I'm picking up from knocking on doors, I'm calling and I'm being like, "Hey Ryan, Jason Crowe with Edward Jones Investments. I had an idea come across my desk. Chevron is paying a 5% dividend. If you got some money, I think you should buy some." That was what I was doing, and I'm just trying to build clientele in order to then build relationships and go deeper with people from there. Things have really changed, not only at Edward Jones, but in our industry, because at that point in time, we were showing value in a transaction, a stock trade. You can go buy Chevron for free on a million different platforms on the internet today, right?
Yep.
And anyone can do that very easily. Our value that we're showing clients is not in, hey, I can buy a stock for you. Hey, I can buy a mutual fund for you. We are going much, much deeper with people, and it's everywhere from, yes, obviously their retirement and financial picture, but how do we minimize taxes, and how do we help you put together an estate plan? So I've got attorneys and CPAs coming into my office all the time, meeting and really putting a team of people around my best clients to help navigate all kinds of different things in their lives. I've gone from a salesperson almost to a counselor sometimes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Quarterbacking people through huge life decisions, really trying to understand what their goals are and figuring out, well, from a finance standpoint, how do we help them get to their goals? Money is just money.
Yeah.
Money is nothing. Money is just money. It's what can it do for you in life that is important.
It's literally just a piece of paper that
That's
we all
right.
agree is worth something.
What do you want to do? And then from there, if you trust me, you find a financial advisor that you do know and you think is doing a good job and has your best interest at heart, and then you rely on them to help you meet your life goals more than anything else.
Yeah.
We're really trying to dig down and find out, what is someone's purpose in life?
Yeah.
What do they really want to get after? Because
Yeah.
like I said, the money is nothing. It's the experiences. And
Yeah, you guys
what
aren't
you wanna
just
do
you
with
guys
it.
don't just take money and put it in an account and then just invest it for them. You guys do so much more than that. And so, like someone like me, if like I know nothing, and most people know very, very little. You don't get a lot of knowledge on stocks and investing in school or
Right.
life at all. And so I know a couple people that just have gone to like Robinhood and they have invested their own money. But yeah, like you're saying, where do you do with it? How do you know what account to get it into? How do you know how to handle it? And so somebody with a business that's making a bunch of money and they're like, okay, I got this money. I need to start investing it. I don't know what to do with it. You can easily start a Robinhood or whatever account, invest the money, but you guys can actually help them and guiding them in the best directions to go to.
That's right. And like I said, it really comes back to understanding people's life goals, and then we can help them, and then we take that off their plate.
You help them delegate.
Yeah, because they don't know, to some extent, they don't know what they don't know. So we start at, what is important to you?
Yeah.
What is the most important things to you? Okay, your grandkids are important to you. Do you think they'll be going to college? Okay. 529 savings plan or custodial account or something, you know what I'm saying? And all these little pieces that go into it, and we put all the stuff together, and I'm trying to get better all the time. So this is, so my kids went back to school on Monday. So did I. So I'm enrolled in Mizzou right now in their master's program, and I'm going through so this afternoon, what I'm going to be doing is hitting the books on this, this first investments class that I've got. I'm in an estate.
So what's the
plan.
importance there? Just more knowledge?
Yeah. So It's really because of this shift in the industry that I was telling you about, from facilitating a stock trade to true planning. I'm stepping up my game, and it's increasing my acumen. And Edward Jones has given us this opportunity to go to Mizzou, take graduate classes towards a master's, but then these classes are also giving me the knowledge that I need to sit for the CFP. So certified financial planner. It's like the gold standard in our industry, and it's a really hard designation to get. So I can get through these classes, sit for the CFP, hopefully get that designation, then only have a couple classes left to have a master's in personal finance. And what this is really going to help me do is it's going to allow me to do more things with my clients, give them more advice from a tax standpoint and from a legal and estate planning standpoint, and really think of help my clients, just all those things that I was just telling you about, but do it better, right?
Yeah.
Really dig deeper and get further with people and help them really solve their problems.
I think that's awesome. I think it's absolutely awesome. And that shows your passion right there, that you want to keep doing it. And almost everybody that I've had on my podcast, everybody that I have in my circle, you're part of my circle, my team. Whenever I look at it, you control a little bit of the money and where my future is going to go in life. And so I have a CPA. I haven't brought my CPA on yet. I haven't brought my attorney on yet, but I brought my real estate agent on. I brought my loan officer on, and I'm just trying to bring everybody that's on my team in. And one thing that's very in common with everybody is they're passionate.
Yeah.
And my CPA and my attorney are the exact same ways. And that's why I feel it. Like when you go in and just talk with you, I can feel how passionate you are about what you do.
Yeah.
And that's how I know that where my money is and where I'm at, I'm in the right hands.
Once you've got everybody individually, you should get everybody in this room together sometime. You know
Just
what I'm
have
saying?
one big meeting.
It'd be an interesting conversation.
I
You know
would
what I'm
love
saying?
to.
It would be a super interesting conversation.
I would absolutely love to. I wish I had like a bigger table.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I probably will. I think there'll be a day where it'll come to the point where I'll have to have everybody gather together, and we're all talking about. I'm already to the point where I'm looking at new investments, and I'm having to bring my loan officers and my CPAs together, and all these people together, because we're all having to talk, and we have to make sure we get all the numbers right.
Right.
Because if we get something wrong, it comes back
all
on
blow
me.
up. Yeah.
And so but I do think it would be an amazing conversation, because everyone's just they're also super, super nice.
Yeah.
Super nice. Like I've got to know them very well, and that's a big thing for me too. Is I've worked with people in the past that they look at me as just another number.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I want to, like, I almost look at you as a friend.
For sure. Absolutely.
And
100%.
so there's never been a time that I've never like contacted you and you never just helped me out.
Yeah.
Just for absolutely free too, basically.
Yeah.
And I've shot like things to you, and I'm like, hey, I seen this going on. What do you think about this? Is this something you like? And I think I even did that with like crypto with you.
Yeah.
And just be like, hey man, this is starting to pop off. What do you think on it? And you kind of just gave me your 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important.
It's all about the relationships, man. Relationships matter. You know what I'm saying? Is that who wants to work with somebody who's no fun or unresponsive, or
doesn't even care about me.
or doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Doesn't really care. Like that's probably the biggest thing is that, the people
I want to feel
matter.
respected.
That's right.
And I want to feel like whoever, because I'm putting the time in, and I'm passionate about it too. And I want to make sure whoever's doing it with me feels the same exact way as me.
Yeah.
I think that's
It's
almost
crucial.
the number one thing.
It's crucial.
Even if I lose it all, I think I could go back to these people. They're still going to care about me, and I'll start over again.
Yeah.
And there'll be ones that help me go through it all.
Let's get back up. Let's do it again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, is there anything else you think we should talk about? I think we're about an hour 20 in.
All right.
Do you want to? Can we? Well, how about let's talk about one more thing.
Okay.
The difference in stocks, the different types of stocks.
Yeah.
Because there's mutual funds.
Yeah.
Well, these are the ones I know. This is the ones that just I've had conversations with people, and I'm starting to learn. But I seriously think that the education on stocks are very minimal, and like I think everybody just thinks a stock is a stock.
Right.
That's it. That's the only type of stock out there. But there's mutual funds, there's dividends.
Yeah.
There's what else?
So here you go. So
what do we got?
So here,
What's
I'm
the
going to give you.
lineup?
I'm going to give you my investments 101. Right.
All right. Let's
So
hear
this.
it.
So it's probably take 5 minutes. So So the way I explain a stock is that back in the day, I don't know, I guess late 60s, early 70s, whatever it was, Sam Walton owned Walmart. He was the sole owner of Walmart, him and his family, right? And no one could buy, you could not buy Walmart stock. They owned it, and it was a private entity.
Private company.
And he decided that he wanted a Walmart in every little town all across the United States. Wealthy guy, not wealthy enough to do that. He needed the public interest. He needed public capital. So he took his company public and created Walmart stock. And so to this day, if you have one share of Walmart stock, you are an owner in the company Walmart. You and 100 million other people, but you do own a piece of that company. With that one share, you get one vote for the board of directors for that company, which is the people that actually run it. So in that way, you are sort of running the company, right? Now, obviously, if you've got 1,000 shares, you got 1,000 votes. You got 100,000 shares, you got 100,000 votes. But you're an owner in that company. And the way that a stock works is that with that board of directors, with the excess profits that they get two options. They can put that money back into the company, or they can give it to the people who own the company. That's what a dividend is, right? And sometimes they do a combination of each. So if you own shares of Walmart,
so it's the company's choice to decide if your stock's a dividend or a...
Oh, so it's growth. Different categories of stocks are growth. Really, let's call it growth and income. We'll just make it that simple. Growth companies are putting their money back in and trying to grow it. Tesla does not pay a dividend. Tesla is research and development, designing the next great thing. You know what I'm saying?
So it's got to go back into the company.
And it's got to go back into the company because they're growing. A company like Walmart is a growth and income company. They're still trying to grow their company to some extent, but they're also providing an income, which is that dividend, for their shareholders, for the people who own the company. The simplest way to think about a stock is on most stocks, anything that pays a dividend at least, there's two ways that you can make money. The share price can go up in value because the company is doing well, and or you get a dividend. And the best way to explain it is an investment, a rental property. Think of a stock like a rental property. If you put $100,000 into a house and you find somebody to rent that house and they're paying you $500 per month to rent that, you can make money on that house in two ways. Well, it can go from $100,000 to $120,000 because the real estate market did well and you sell it. Mm-hmm. That's the growth. That's the stock price
that's
going
a portfolio.
Up. Yep. Or you're also getting $500 a month. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that would be a gain. That would be growth. But you're also getting the income off of it as well, and that's kind of like the dividend. So two ways you can make money on a stock: can go up in value and you sell it, or it can pay you a dividend, or a combination of each. But with that, ownership is also the possibility the company does not do well, is not run well, and the share and they do not have good revenues, which is how you value a company, and they go down in price, right? So that's the risk associated with stocks. So then what is a mutual fund? Well, a mutual fund is just a whole bunch of stocks, a whole bunch of companies packaged into one that a person can buy. Because most people say, well, I don't know enough about these different companies, so I don't know which companies are good or bad. So I'm going to buy a mutual fund, and there's going to be a portfolio manager inside of there who's calling the shots on that fund, trying to make as much money in that fund as possible.
So who makes the mutual funds? Wall Street?
So different companies do. So you think about a company like Vanguard, or like the American Funds is an enormous company that makes these, or Franklin Templeton or Invesco, or there's a number of different companies out there who make these funds, and they've got an umbrella, a suite of different funds. So maybe they got an international fund, they've got a small cap fund, a large cap fund, a mid cap fund, a growth, a value, a real estate, whatever it is. You can find something that suits the individual inside of these different suites. And these different companies are obviously all competing for the best performance. Mm-hmm. So they pay their portfolio managers based on the performance of the fund. So the person who's running that fund gets compensated based on what is the return, how did they do versus their overall.
So they're just building like a easy, convenient package.
That's right. For
investors to be able to get in and just buy their package,
yeah.
Basically.
So
like, this is my investment package.
Back in 1929, MFS, so it stands for Massachusetts Financial Services, started the first mutual fund. MIT, the Massachusetts Investors Trust. And it was really because stocks at that point in time were valued at such high prices, and people weren't making enough money to really participate in the stock market. If you wanted to buy a piece of JP Morgan Chase, the bank, which is a publicly traded company, their stock price is like a couple $100 a share. And people are only making a couple $100 every few months, you know what I'm saying? Or something like that at that point in time. So
that'd be equivalent to now it being maybe $5,000 a share.
yeah, exactly. That's right. So for example, it's really hard to buy a share of Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, because they sell for $300,000 a share per share. Yeah. And even Amazon got so high, in the thousands to where it split to make it more desirable for people to buy. But so MFS back in 1929 decided, hey, let's purchase these and let people buy pieces of our fund, right? So you can go and buy this Massachusetts Investors Trust and you're getting 30 or 40 stocks all in one bite-sized package. Oh, and by the way, you can put just a few $100 and you're getting all of these stocks all in one. So that was kind of the idea behind a mutual fund. Now people are buying them for diversification purposes, to instantly have 100 stocks in your portfolio, just instantly, and because they don't want to manage it themselves. And then what we'll do a lot of times is we'll put together packages of mutual funds for people to where they have a growth fund, they have a value fund, they have a small cap fund, they have a large cap fund. We're kind of picking the best of the best and helping them get the best return that they can over there. People who want to be more involved will do individual, like yourself, right? We've done individual stocks because you want to know your companies, you want the transparency, you want to have your hands in there and see what's going on. So we do that as well. But yeah, so that's kind of a mutual fund versus a stock. And then on the other side of it, so that's the equity or stock side. Then you've got the fixed income side, which is primarily bonds, which are just loans to a company. You're making a loan to a company for a guaranteed interest rate and your money back at the end of the day.
Okay.
And so that's the safer side of the equation. And so what I look at whenever I'm thinking through how to help someone invest their money and looking at risk, we're thinking through, well, what percentage should be in stocks and what percentage should be in fixed income? So for someone who, like myself or like you, for my 401k, I got a long time before retirement. And so it's all equities. It's all stocks because I can take the risk. I understand what I'm doing with it. I'm not using it right away. So I've got a long-term perspective so I can put that all in stocks. For someone who is, the 90-year-old widow who says, I just want to give my money to Jimmy and Susie, and I don't care if I make another dollar in my life. I just want to make sure it goes there, and I don't want to lose anything.
Yeah.
We do it. We call it preservation of principle.
So they're basically just loaning their money. That's right. Like that. The lady's just loaning her money in a bond of some kind.
Yeah.
So bonds, you guys do bonds, but banks do bonds too.
Yeah, banks mostly do CDs, so certificates of deposit, and so that's where
is that a form of a bond?
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, it is. It's part of fixed income. Yeah, it's part of that fixed income bucket because what you're doing is you're loaning your money to the bank for a guaranteed interest rate, and then your money back at the end of that term.
Okay,
does that make sense? So you've got a certain term and a certain rate, and so the thing about bonds, why they don't grow as much though, is because unlike stocks, you take out one of your two growth potentials. Remember, I said it can go up in value. Or it can pay a dividend or an income. With fixed income, you're only getting the income, only the dividend or income. It's not going to grow. You're getting your same dollar that you put in. You're getting that dollar back at the end of the day, plus some interest.
Yeah,
but it's not going to grow.
Right.
But you're not taking on as much risk.
So you guys don't do CDs though. You guys just do different style bonds. You guys do CDs.
Yeah, we do CDs. So we do certificates of deposit as well. We shop banks all across the country to get the best rate. And so even though you're working with Edward Jones, you're not getting an Edward Jones CD. You may be getting a CD from a bank out of Salt Lake City, Utah, right? But it is FDIC insured, so it is insured by the U.S. government, right? And so that's really the safest form of investing is investing in CDs.
Okay. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. I think that's going to help a lot of other people understand as well.
Hopefully so.
I just had something I was just thinking about. Well, hell, now I can't think about it. There was something right along those lines though, but I just can't think about it. Oh, well, like 2008, 2007 when the market crashed. Yeah. That was because of basically a bond that was built like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, there's a lot going on then, but I mean, the basis of that was...
It was a subprime
lending. And it was really that they were, banks were just getting overzealous with what they would loan. Banks were taking on too much risk is really what it came down to. Banks would make giant loans most of the time for mortgages, for houses, to, say a husband and wife, and they're each making $30,000 a year, and they're giving them a $500,000 loan for a house. It's not a good idea.
Yeah. And anyone was approved for it, basically.
Yeah.
Anyone could get approved for it because they were just like looking the other direction.
Yeah.
But wasn't it Warren Buffett that built these loan packages? Weren't they getting funds from somewhere else to grow the money? And they made them in a package, and then were selling them to banks, to people that were coming in.
So I don't know exactly all the intricacies of that, but the bottom line is what was going on there. The subprime lending. I mean, in a lot of different forms, but it's really the banks just loaning out money, bad loans. And then what happened was they were loaning out money to people who could make these loan payments, but just barely. And then we started to see the economy slide off. The market, or the economy, goes in cycles. Every 5, 6, 7 years, we go through, generally speaking, some sort of, and like I said, this is the average, but you go through some sort of a recession where the economy cools and then it heats back up, and it cools and it heats back up. And so all this subprime lending was going on, and then the economy cooled. And then that husband and wife that were each making $30,000, now just the wife is making $30,000 because the husband was laid off because the economy was cooling. And now they've got a $500,000 mortgage on their hands.
Yeah.
And now they say, no, we're just walking away. We're walking away from this.
We can't do nothing about it.
And so the banking system just imploded on itself. And you have,
because none of the money was coming back in because nobody was making payments. Now, none of these were like fixed rates either, right? So like the interest rates were probably low. They overextended.
Yep.
Prices were really low, non-fixed, so interest rates probably shot up.
Yep.
The market went to crap. People were losing jobs. Nobody was making their payments. And then that's where everybody just started.
That's when it really kind of all fell apart. And yeah, some of those rates may have been fixed and some not. But either way, they were just too big of loans and too big of, people were stretching themselves out really too far. And they were almost encouraged by the banks to do so. You can afford this. You can afford this loan. Get take it on.
Yeah, because at the time they were just like, they were encouraging people, encouraging banks. And not only, it wasn't just banks, but it was real estate agents.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, I can get you this.
I can
get you this loan. Almost anybody gets approved. All you got to do is be able to show you can do it. We'll get you in the house.
Any house you want.
Fine.
Yeah.
And so that's when everybody was just like, all right. And then just like now, or just like 6 months to a year ago, how everyone's like, the market's great, interest rates are low, you gotta buy.
Yeah.
That's exactly what everybody just listened to everybody else, and nobody really looked into it.
I think the danger right now is that I think there has been a lot of variable loans made because you can get the very lowest rate with these variable loans. Now we're starting to see interest rates rise. So I'll be interested to see, because the housing inventory has just been so tight, right? That you can't even hardly find a house because they're just gobbled up at prices that are even higher than asking. Not only that, but in this area, farms and big tracts of land that are like, man, where's this money coming from to some extent? And now we're in a rising interest rate environment. So depending on how long that lasts and, what it looks like 1, 2, 3 years from now, don't know.
It's going to be really interesting.
It is going to be interesting. Yeah.
I do know that the market's not the same.
Yeah.
100% with that, because I had just bought a house and I got a really good deal on it. And if it was 6 months ago, I would have made 50 grand on it.
Yeah.
But the market changed and I couldn't even hardly get an offer on it.
Yeah.
And I had one offer and then someone backed out. And I guarantee it was because they thought they were going to have 3% interest rate.
And they ended up with 5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, 5, 6. And they're like, whoa, my payment's not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so they ended up backing out. And then my next offer was significantly lower. But this was like right when it happened, like right at the very beginning. And I had watched it and I knew it was coming. Like I was watching it happen, but I'm the kind of person that, hey, I'm going to take the chance. I'm not going to not take an opportunity in life. Just because I'm not going to let fear control me.
Right.
So I did it. And whenever I got that second offer, it was super low, but I knew that, hey, you don't know where this is going to go. And I had a few people that were alive in the 80s that not so much mentors, but kind of almost like a little mentor in my life, or at least whenever they say something, I listen.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I should probably listen a little bit. And they were telling me about the 18% interest rate back in the 80s. And they're like, you don't know where this is going, Ryan. So I was like, you know what? They know more than me. Let it go.
Yeah.
But if it was 6 months ago, it would have been a bidding war for it.
Yeah.
And it just happens. It just happens like that. But I can tell you right now, times are changing, and it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen. I think for now, a lot of people are just going to buckle down. stay low. Because I'm actually looking at, so I met with a guy last night or 2 nights ago. And like I was telling you this before the podcast, he's a mentor.
Yeah.
And the direction that I want to go, a mentor for the direction I want to go in my life. And so he recommended me, he's like, hey, you need to research back up on this. And I already had the mindset of it, but I was kind of falling off and just kind of losing track because I was just going, kind of bouncing back and forth between too many things. And he got me back on the right track. And one phone call, or one Zoom call got me back on the right track. And now I stopped and talked to my realtor yesterday and said, hey, find me a house. I'm ready to sell.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready to make some big changes in my life. And like I look at things and I'm like, where are my biggest liabilities? Right here. I'm sitting in my biggest liability right here.
Yeah.
I'm my biggest liability. And it was all, I love my house and I love the stuff here, but if I really want to take it to the next level, I got to make sacrifices. And this is right here is my next sacrifice.
That's awesome. I love it. I love to hear. I'm passionate about growth. I'm passionate about getting better all the time. I'm passionate about making those changes and looking at yourself and looking at the things that you're doing and analyzing that and not being scared to be bold and do the next thing.
Yeah, you got to.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
it is a lot of fun.
It makes life so much more interesting, right?
Yeah, and the more I do it, the more freedom I get, and that's what I was always chasing, was freedom. And so, like, I don't cut my own grass anymore, and there's a lot of things I've started to delegate, which just seems so simple, like not cutting your own grass. Like, okay, that's not a big deal. But that was something that I could never afford to pay someone for. Now I can, and now I can focus on things that I want to do more.
That's right.
And I'm able to do this podcast at 10 a.m. because I've built a system through a business that I can pay someone to work for me so I can get a little extra free time to do what I want in life.
It's terrific.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. And so I've made a lot of sacrifices in the past. I've sold a lot of cars I never want to sell. I've given up a lot of things I never wanted to give up because, I just thought it'd be like, that's what I wanted. I would love a boat. I'd love a side-by-side. I'd love a brand new car. But none of those things make me money. And so I'm sacrificing all that stuff. And then maybe one day later in my life, I'll get them. But for now, I'm focusing on what's important. I think that's what a lot of people need to do.
Yep. No, that's great. I think you've got a great attitude. And, I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but like a couple of things, and I think you'll completely understand this mantra. Choose to be happy. Choose to be optimistic. These things are a choice. People don't realize that, but people choose to be sad, man. They don't think they do, but they do.
Yes.
It's crazy.
They're working these jobs that they absolutely hate.
That's right.
They're working for people that they don't. There's nothing wrong with working for somebody.
No.
But like a lot of people, they choose to stay somewhere just for the money. They're like, I'm making too much money. And it's just like, who cares? You're not happy. You're miserable.
Yeah.
Go find something that you enjoy to do, even if it pays a little less, and then make some adjustments in your life.
You'll end up being so much more successful like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you'll find avenues in it.
That's right.
And there's my loan officer. That's exactly what she did. She wasn't happy in her field, and she took a step back, got started in a totally different industry, and now through that new industry, which was banking, she became a loan officer, and she found out like she might not love writing the paperwork, but she loves helping people. She loves getting people their first car and their first house or starting their first business. Like that brings her joy. And so, things like that, getting into fields like where you might just have some interest in it and then going in that direction. Because just staying somewhere that you're not happy is not it. I have on...
Life is too short. Life is too short. You only go around once. God gives you the breath you're taking. I've always said that. And so you need to do the things that you want to do now.
I have on the back of my lock screen, I have Chase Happiness. That's one of the things on my lock screen. And that's why I have this smiley face on this Billy Cup. And I have a hat with a smiley face on it. And I just... Like, it kind of seems silly or whatever, but I've really just, for a long time now, probably 5 years, I've just been chasing happiness. And obviously, I do things that have to make me money to survive, but I've been chasing happiness, putting happiness above everything. Like, that's like the main thing I focus on. And at the end of the day, like, could not been happier with where my life's at. I get so much joy, and I get... Like doing these podcasts and having these people on that I really like, I love it. It brings me so much happiness, and I'll leave a podcast with energy. Yeah, like I'll be just like I just drank a tall cup of coffee or something.
That's right.
Because I get fuel off other people.
Surround yourself with those people, right? That's another thing too. Is just like surround yourself with people who have good energy and have a similar mindset as you. And
I've had to cut some people out of my life that were just mud.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but love for them, but I had to take myself
Not
out of that
helping.
because it was dragging me down.
Yeah.
It was taking my happiness away. And so, I got nothing for love of it for them. And if they ever came back in my life and ever wanted help, I would love to help them. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I can't be around you guys because it's making me unhappy.
Yeah.
So I just had to step away. And I've actually, to the point where I'm solo a lot. Like I'm doing this whole life kind of solo right now. And I have friends and stuff like that, but I do a lot on my own because I just kind of had to cut some people out that were, like I said, mud, and they kind of just slow me down. They just dragging me down. But through that process, I've also found a lot of people that also bring me up.
Have come to the top.
Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my journey I'm on right now, is finding like-minded people. And this podcast was the whole reason why I met that mentor and how I've met some of these people. This is an excuse for me to reach out to people that have the energy that I want to see. I just had a podcast come out today. His name's Kyler Richardson. Never met this dude in my entire life. Didn't know nothing about him. And I'm in a collective group. It's all like a bunch of not just young entrepreneurs, but just young motivated people. And I had a guy that someone else referred me to him. He added me to this collective group. And then I made a post of this podcast when I started. I said, hey, I'm starting this podcast. If anyone would like to come on, I'd love to have some new people on. This guy immediately said, hey, I'd love to come out. He's never met me. I never met him. I knew nothing about him. I didn't know what kind of business he had, nothing.
It's probably a great conversation.
And he came out, and we hit it off. It was like there was no skip of a beat or nothing. Yeah. And we were like, dude, we got to do this again.
For sure.
And we still stay in touch because of that. And so, I think, making the change was tough, and it is a tough situation in my life. But at the end of the day, like, it feels right, and that's how I know it's right.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Before you leave, can I get you to sign my banner?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Sign your name on it. You can sign Edward Jones if you want. It doesn't matter. I got a Sharpie right here.
Right on.
But this is something I missed the first couple people that came into the podcast, but I want to get it just all completely filled up, just like completely tatted up all around it.
All right, check it out. I'm going to put on here my signature, man. I know this is really bizarre, and I'm not like a big Batman fan or anything like that. But I can't draw, and all through high school, I drew this, and it was like all over all of my
the Batmobile.
Yeah, homework.
That's great.
And all kinds of stuff. And so all my friends, anyone that's close to me, has this somewhere at their house written on something. I put it on everything that I.
Cool. No, it looks great. First I was like, what's he going with
What
this?
is that?
But yeah, no, I can totally see it now. That's awesome. It's unique too.
Yeah, it's different, right?
I like it. Let's wrap it up.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming out, Jason.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Great conversation. I look forward to working with you going forward. And hey, if you ever want to come back on, man, I love it. It's fun.
And anybody that's still listening to this, if you guys are thinking about getting in the stocks or anything, stop in and talk to Jason. He's super easy to talk to. And you don't have to have the money right at the beginning. Just tell him your goal, and he'll help you figure out how you guys can get to that
That's
goal,
right.
for sure.
For sure.
And if you guys are listening, I always forget to tell everybody this, but make sure you like and subscribe. That's how I grow. Like, if I can make it to 1,000 subscribers, that's when I can get monetized, and I can start getting paid for
Help this guy out. Help this guy out. He does a good job.
Yes, definitely. So make sure you give it a like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast.
Awesome. Thanks.